Retrieve the collar. Honor guard. Hey. Forward. March.
And I had set it to music. I have tissues sitting around various places for people, and what I want you to do is, as you start to think of something, I want you to talk about it, because this is his celebration, or our celebration for him. Okay. Go ahead, Larry, do you want to start with 23?
Sure. I think everybody's here. Most of the people.
I think most everybody's here.
I think we'll begin. I believe most, if not everybody, is here that was planning on coming over. Thanks again for coming. Welcome to Bowmansville Mennonite Church. We're happy that we could make this place available for you all today. On short notice, this is what we have, and it's better than a cold, rainy day in the park. Nice and dry. Cindy asked if I would read the 23rd Psalm, and the reason that I'm reading this, early Thursday morning before Dennis left the house, he was watching TV, and on the program I heard in the midst of the movie somebody was reading the 23rd Psalm, and I heard it, and I thought, if I can, I'd like to share that here for that. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
I sunset, I would call out your name to echo through the vast.
Thank heaven for you, and to God tip my hat.
From here to the
moon
and back. And I'll spend forever just proving that fact. From here to the moon and back. From here to the moon and back.
certainly was in the right.
Yes, definitely. I guess he was cruising for bruising.
trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dream that you dare to, oh why can't I? Well, I see trees of green and red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white and the brightness of day. I like the dark and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, singing, how do you do? They really say, I love you. I hear babies cry and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. And the dreams that you dare to, why, oh, why can't I? And point me toward tomorrow. We did what we had to do. Won't forget, can't regret what I did for love. What I did for love. What I did for love. What I did for love.
We have Dave Steese to thank for that. He did a beautiful job. Thank you. I would like to now open up to your celebration of his life and the memories that these pictures have triggered, I hope.
And if you could, if we can get you on camera, if you're comfortable with that. If not, just speak up from your seat.
I'm Sherry. I have 5 cousins. Dennis was one of them. And I just remember growing up, I don't know if it's true or not, but my parents always told me that when Dennis babysat us, he used to feed us dog food. That is my earliest memory of Dennis. And Dennis was always just Dennis, and we always appreciated him for everything that he did. And I just loved his tinkering, and I just want to express to the family, my parents unfortunately cannot be here today. They really extend their condolences to everybody, but unfortunately they're in Hawaii celebrating their 60th anniversary. So I just want to say, Dennis, he will be missed, and I just appreciate the dog food that you always fed to us growing up. And it's a celebration of Dennis's life. So I just had to celebrate that part of what I remember of Dennis. So, thank you.
I want to tag on a little bit what Sherry said. Her parents always referred to Dennis as Dennis the Menace, and probably still do. I'm baby brother Kevin, and I went through that baby brother thing. And I'm the little towhead kid that you saw in one of the films. My memories of Dennis, of course, is of a little kid. The funniest ones is a little kid seeing both my older brothers and all the mischief they got into together. Kind of the tag team effort on both my parents. They smoothed the waters out for me because as I was growing up, everything was pretty easy going by then because they had gone through everything already. Some of the funnier memories with Denny is he went through a period where he thought he was going to become a chicken farmer, I guess, at the time. He converted the shed that we had, that we kept like our mini bikes and bicycles in, that type of thing, converted that into a semi-chicken coop, cut a hole in the side of the wall, had a little pen on the outside. And when he got the rooster, that was okay for about a week, until the neighbors started calling every morning, 5 o'clock in the morning when the rooster was going off. Rooster didn't last very much longer after that, and as with the rest of the chickens, they kind of made their way out too. A lot of good, funny memories. Same thing along the lines of animal husbandry or whatever you want to call it. When he and Gary both caught a baby deer, a little fawn, and I guess they thought that it had lost its way from its mother and they were going to become the parents of this baby deer. So the dog got out of the pen and the baby deer was in the pen. Not for much longer, maybe a half hour before it was jumping around. It just wanted to get out, so it finally was let go and back to its mama it went. Geez, there's just so many things. We lived in a pretty cool area where there was a lot of woods and places to explore and all that. And I remember the rule was you get home by 5 o'clock because that's dinner time. If you're late, I guess don't bother coming home. But there were a lot of times where they were late because they were always down at the 3 tunnels swimming or back in the woods, building the fort or doing whatever things that I haven't quite got the full story on, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't legal. A lot of great memories of Danny. Want to miss him. A lot of the photos really triggered. A lot of feelings, good feelings, happy feelings. So thanks for getting this all together. Appreciate it.
As an addendum to the dog food incident, I'd like to say that a can of Mighty Dog is now 59 cents. So that was really an act of generosity, not an act of disrespect. I realize that every human being is unique, but if I may manufacture a word, Dennis was uniquer than most. I think that Dennis was looking forward while his body was taking him backwards. And I'm sure that he was still adding to his to-do list up until his relocation. And he was a caring man. I had a couple maintenance incidents And Dennis, while he was battling the life-threatening illness, would ask me how I was. One of our common neighbors had to see a cardiologist every so often, and Dennis would chauffeur him. And I just think that I don't know where to find another Dennis, and I'm not going to look. But on a personal level, it was the wisdom and the pleasure of Larry Horning, Mel Boyd, and myself to appoint him and reappoint him to the Township Sewer Authority, where he served up until the time of his relocation. And as we can no longer see him, we still have memories, and memories are great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mel. And at the time that we were looking for someone for the sewer authority. Now, the sewer authority is not really a job you want to do. You know? And it's difficult getting people to serve in public office or do things for the public. So we were having trouble finding somebody for the sewer authority. And we were short of actually 2 members. So I knew Dennis, not for a very long time, but I knew him on a casual basis. And I thought, Dennis is an unusual person. He would like to be on the sewer authority. That'd be right up his alley. And sure enough, he says, oh yeah, no problem at all. And so then I got to know him much better. And we would go out to breakfast, and he could eat. Oh my goodness, could the guy eat? You know, you could go to one of those places, all you can eat, and he just about closed the place. You know, he was dangerous. And I don't know where he put it, because he was such a slim guy. But over the years then, if you've ever been to his house, it's so unusual. It's actually stark interior. You know, there's just refrigerator, stove, table, chairs. Not a whole lot of like women's stuff. You know what I mean? Junk. And if you go in the living room, you would expect to find a couch and, you know, an end table and stuff like that. Nope. What you will find is machinery. It is perfect. Everything is restored. It's beautiful. It's painted. But the whole room is full of engines and you name it. But everything restored. Perfect. Same thing out in his garage. All these machines that he has. Painted and polished, and that was his, all the tool chests everywhere. That was his life. And so as I knew him, it was a pleasure to know the guy. I was in awe, and I appreciated him because he was different. Everybody's different in a way, but he was real different. It's been my pleasure to know him. Thank you.
I'm Dale. I was in the Navy with them on our first tour. What drew us together mostly was motorcycles. We've motorcycled ever since we met each other. I remember one time we were helicopter mechanics. We were stationed in Lakehurst, New Jersey. We used to ride back to his parents' place in Northampton, I believe. And we'd have some adventures there. One time we were riding through a small town. My bike caught fire while I was riding, and the next week, well, we had it fixed like in 5 minutes. We took off. The newspaper people were there, the police, the fire department. We fixed it up, tightened up a screw and took off, waved to everybody. A week later, he went by and our picture was in the paper and everything, big article about us. Remember one time we had an inspection and they couldn't find him. They found him under a helicopter with his hands draped over things. Well, he fell asleep. And they go, wake up, you're supposed to be over there. And he goes, oh, sorry. Once a week, we'd go out and we'd do our laundry. We'd put our stuff in the laundry, we'd go away, come back a half hour, throw it in the dryer, come back, go away, come back a half hour, fold everything up, go back to base. Well, one time we threw everything in, we were coming back after we were drying it, and he threw his long johns in there. Well, we didn't know that it was made out of wool and wool shrinks. His shirt was about this big and a pair of pants were about like this. Well, we laughed for about an hour about that one. On some of those pictures, I saw some of the bikes we worked on together. He had that trike. And when he first got out and went to college and that's the only vehicle he had. He would drive that to college in the middle of winter and everything. I would keep coming here as often as I could. And I just loved the guy. He was just a one in a, everybody has their things. And you said he could eat. Well, he'd eat and then he'd ask for more because he wanted to take home extras and stuff like that. The guy was great. He knew everything. He's been working on things because his father used to work on things, on machinery and stuff like that. I think that's how it got into it. We used to the motorcycles, we'd tear the engines apart, tear the transmission apart, tear everything. He'd repaint everything. He'd put different front ends, and that's what got me even more and more involved in the things that I do, and I do to this day. So that's just my memories of Dennis.
And, my name is Mike McHenry. Dennis and I first met on a committee for the township for the expansion of when the turnpike came through and what we're going to do with the bridges and some trails and things of that nature. Then he joined me on the sewer authority. Well, they said he's different. I choose in the most respectful way to say he was eccentric in all the best ways of that. Dennis and I, a lot of times after the meeting, we would go out and grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a piece of pie or something. And it would start off, he'd call me about an hour and a half before the meeting. You coming to pick me up? Yes, Dennis, I will pick you up again. And then I'd pick him up, we'd go to the meeting, and he'd say, did you ask permission to go out for pie and cake for my wife? So I'd say, yes, I have clearance, I can go for pie. So we go out, and he'd say to me, there was 2 or 3 of us that would go out after every meeting, and he would, we would rotate who was paying. That was just what we did. Mike? Yes, Dennis. And I seem to forget my wallet. Not that I could care less. I said, Dennis, I've got this, Dennis, don't worry about it. So we go out, another rotation. Dennis, did you remember your wallet as we're pulling away from his house? No. Okay. So, and this was the game we played with Dennis all the time. But Dennis had good insight, he had good instincts. We dealt with a lot of questions, trying to put the sewer authority in better financial positions than it had been, and he was a big contributing factor to that. I liked him as a friend because he came at things from a different perspective than most folks did. So we kind of just worked well together, and he didn't miss a trick. He knew what was going on in the township and which way the wind was blowing. So if I wasn't sure what was happening, I'd go see Dennis because he had connections everywhere. And so it was my pleasure to have known him for probably 5 or 6 years. And we had a lot of laughs together, and he had given me a couple of tokens that he wanted to give me. I keep them in my house as a memory of him, but I still think the thing I'll remember the most is, Mike, I forgot my wallet. Thank you.
youngest sister. And I remember as a little girl, I looked up to him so much. He was my protector. A lot of funny things. I remember when the boys would come around because my brother Gary and Denny were very into motors and engines and dirt bikes, and they one time put a little mini bike together. And, you know, of course, I wanted to try it out, so they let me try it out. And I ran it up a tree. End up pretty skinned up, and my mom wanted to know how that happened. Well, of course, you know, I skinned it up on a tree. I remember when I was probably 14, 15, 16, and the boys would come around hanging out in the shed, and the boys would say, you know, I want to ask your sister to go out. And I guess I had to be about 16. But, and Denny would be like, you're not taking my sister. But I always remember him being my protector. And I remember when I was about 7 or 8, I remember saying to him, when I grow up, I want to marry you. But of course, that was, you know, your baby and you love your brother so much. But they're memories that I'll always have.
My name's Christopher. My Uncle Dennis was one of my favorite uncles. The others are here today. I didn't want to come up here at first because I was concerned that I would break up. But now that I know that the floor is open to that, I figured I could make my way up. To bring a little bit of levity, I'll tell a story about the sewer commission, of which I had nothing to do. But what they won't tell you, apparently, is that sometimes it would become a little bit boring at the commission hearings, which I'm sure was not often. And I like to travel. And when I travel, from time to time, I'll write stories, most of which have very little to do with what I'm actually experiencing, but all of which have something to do with what I would hope would happen to me, and it never did. But because some of them were somewhat risque, they got shared with very, very few people. And my Uncle Dennis was one that I could trust. So I sent it to him. And 3 or 4 weeks would go by, and I would say, Uncle Dennis, you know, have you read the recent jaunt? Because I'd have the jaunt to Nicaragua, the jaunt to Tijuana, and so on and so forth. He said, the first chapter is going great, and it has like 13 chapters. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, when I go to these water commission sewer hearings, they are fantastic to break it up. So another 7 or 8 or 10 weeks go by. I said, how is the jaunt, the latest jaunt, going? He goes, I just cracked into chapter 5, and it's going so well, I'm wondering if you would do me a favor. I said, well, what's the favor? He goes, I have this buddy of mine who is on the sewer commission, who I'm sure would love this thing, but I know that you gave it to me in confidence. Would you let me share it? And I said, yes. But I never got that guy's name. And my guess is, statistically speaking, he's probably here today. So if you have the jaunt, there's only one copy that was sent to him. And if you liked it, be glad to autograph it for you later on. I'm here from Columbus, Ohio. I had the great honor of catching my Uncle Dennis just a couple weeks before he died. I didn't think that would be the last time that I saw him. I really didn't. even though I was forewarned. And I should have known because, and this is tying into an earlier story, Cindy and I were supposed to all go to dinner together. And I had spent the day with him, a good portion of the day, looking at tractors and other things, which is that's what we do as O'Briens. And he didn't want to join us for dinner. And I should have known that that was the very, very end, because Uncle Dennis, as you gathered, would never forego a meal, especially, and usually when I come into town, I pay for it, right? So he would never forego that sort of thing. Kidding aside, I wanted to, as I was thinking about this day and whether I would actually talk, which was, I would talk. I wanted to think about what set my uncle apart from so many other people. And I really like that term, uniquer, because he was and he is just that. But I think maybe a couple things that I just want to mention about his virtues. Number one, he would talk to anyone pretty much about anything, and it didn't matter what your education was, what you do, what your color is, or anything like that. And without sounding, I don't know what the right word is, I think that if more of us were like that today, this nation and this world would be a lot different, for the better. And secondly, what I wanted to mention as far as his virtues, and I'm sure that at least half, if not 3/4 of the folks here have seen this, and that is that I'm going to go beyond what I'm originally going to say. I'm going to go beyond it. But what I'm saying originally is that his handshake actually meant something. And where I'm from, that's not necessarily the case. And from where I've been, that's not necessarily the case. But I'm going to go a step further. It's just not a handshake. If my Uncle Dennis gave you his word, that was it. That was it. And there's certainly things about him that I'm not terribly fond of, but there are things you can say about him that are from, by and large, a lost era. But at any rate, I hope that, like you, it has been your pleasure and your honor to have known my Uncle Dennis. And thanks for coming out.
There'd be one or two, they're ready to serve us the food, so if somebody has something they'd like to share yet, please take your opportunity.
We're saving me till the end.
I'm Gary, I'm Dennis's brother, sister Patty. Dennis and I were born on a year and 5 days apart. And from that very time, we were in strict competition with one another. Every Christmas, my dad got Dennis a bicycle, I got a bicycle. He got a set of tools, I got a set of tools. And to keep them separated, my dad would put a little green mark on my tools and a little red mark on his. But, and we were, like I said, we were always in competition with one another, being so close in age. And it was a good life. We had good parents, excellent living conditions, and basically a fairy tale life. And God bless them. And you too.
Well, since all my siblings have also spoken, I guess as the oldest sister, I too must speak. My name is Patty, and there's 3 years between Dennis and I. So when I got married, Dennis was 18, and I moved away. So I don't have a lot of memories of Dennis as an adult. And as a kid, all I remember was Gary and Dennis would pick on me and try to get away with murder when I was babysitting. So I would tell my parents that I would babysit the two babies, Susan and Kevin, but the boys were on their own. And if they killed each other. So I really don't have a lot of memories as a young person, and even as an adult, I really don't remember that much, except that I will say, anytime Dennis would come to visit my mom, and my dad, of course, but my mom, he would bring flowers to her every time. He was a very loving son. And that's one thing that my mom would always say, don't wait to bring me flowers when I'm dead. And Dennis is the only one of all of us kids that would do that for my mother. And he was my daughter's godfather. My daughter is the oldest of the grandchildren. And I asked Dennis to be her godfather, and Susan is her godmother. And Dennis and I really were never close, but anytime I would see him, he would say to me, I love you, Patsy. He was the only person that called me Patsy. And that's my memories of my brother. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to try to do this without crying. He was my best friend. He was my soulmate. We had 17 years together. Some of them were tough, others were just great. But he nevertheless was faithful and always with me. We learned that he had cancer when he had a colonoscopy done. And I said, you gotta be kidding. He goes, no, Sin, I'm not kidding. I said, so what are we gonna do? Well, let's just see how this works out. So that was in July of 2014. By January of 2015, he thought he had the flu. But when he urinated brown, I knew that it wasn't the flu. And so we went into Dr. Gerstein's office, and Allie, his nurse, is here today. And Dr. Gerstein said, you think he looks a little jaundiced, Cindy? His whites of his eyes were yellow. He was just as yellow as can be. We go to a diagnostic center, and we find that he has a tumor in his pancreas. That's not a good place to have a tumor because it's not curable. And so we did. I can't imagine doing this, but he did it. He did 48 hours of chemo straight, 2 weeks off. 48 straight, 2 weeks off. He did that for 8 weeks. Took a little break, and then for every day, he did, for 5 days a week, for 6 weeks, he did radiation and chemo to try to shrink the tumor. My daughter, who's here today, said, Mom, isn't that the ultimate in love? He's doing chemo so that you can have one more day together. And I didn't think about it that way, but I think about it all the time right now. He was my best. He brought out the best in me. Forever I will love him. I don't know what else to say other than I helped him die, and I know he's in a better place. The Wednesday, August 31st, he was hiccuping, and I'm going to get graphic, and I'm sorry. He was hiccuping, and he was crying. It hurt so bad. And I said, honey, You don't have to be in pain. So I called inpatient hospice. They said, put an Ativan under his tongue. So I did. We had an apothecary of drugs in the refrigerator, of which we needed to get to when the time was necessary. Within 15 minutes, Dennis regurgitated blood, this dark, thick brown. And I called hospice back and I said, I don't know what to do now. This is beyond my pay grade. I don't know what to do. They said, we'll get him. And by 2 o'clock on Thursday morning, he was in inpatient hospice. I follow in my car, and he sits up in bed, and he goes, Sin, it's been a good run. And I knew then that he was going to die. They were able to stop the hiccups. They were able to stop the pain. I went home to shower, but before I went home to shower, I said, what if he dies while I'm gone? And the caseworker said, give him a kiss and tell him you love him. And I did, and he heard me, and he smiled. And I thought, oh, he's still mentally here with me. At 3:30 in the afternoon, I watch him, and he has his hands up to heaven, and his mom was waiting on him. Such a beautiful scene. My daughter came in. She said her last goodbyes to him. And his comment to me, and she didn't know this, but he said, she's not my daughter by blood, but boy, is she my daughter. He loved her to pieces. An hour after she left, he passed. I was fortunate enough to hold his hand while he died. And I know now that he's in the best place he can be. There's no more struggles. There's no more compromises. The picture that's in the obituary was taken the Sunday before he passed away. He weighed maybe 100 pounds. The picture that's on the memorial service was when he was robust, and he weighed 170 pounds. He was a valiant fighter. And for that, I will always love him. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for coming. We'll just pause now for a blessing on the food, and then the food is ready for us. And we'll try to set up tables and chairs as we have here. We'll make room so bear with us as we get that set up. Let's pray. Thank you, Father, for this day that we can celebrate the life of Dennis. Lord, I pray your blessing upon his family and his loved ones, that you would comfort them and grant them the peace and the memories that they need to face life without their friend and brother. Lord, I pray your blessing on this food. Thank you for those who prepared it. Renew our bodies with strength for the tasks that you have set out for us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Do you want us to go down further?